Hi, my name is Ray Curley, and I am here today to talk to you about bias in teaching evaluations. So first, I want to give you a little bit of background information. Teacher observations are a key part of the teacher evaluation process. This usually involves an administrator who observes a teacher in a classroom setting and scores them based on those observations. Obviously, these scores can be affected by biases. Many studies have shown that Black teachers are more likely to receive lower observation scores than white teachers, and that male teachers are more likely to receive lower observation scores than female teachers. These lower scores can affect morale, pay, and turnover. One key example was in DC public schools. It was found that their evaluation system was statistically biased against racial minorities. That same system was used to justify the firings of hundreds of teachers, and hundreds more resigned voluntarily after receiving a low evaluation score. So what are some of the impacts? First and foremost, the school system is there to provide service to the students and to make sure that they achieve their maximum potential and receive the best education possible. Teacher evaluations are part of that process. As we previously stated, lower observation scores contribute to higher turnover. Higher turnover among teachers negatively affects students in the entire school, not just in those teachers' specific classrooms. Those impacts are felt most among low-income students and students of color. Maintaining a diverse workforce helps to reduce gaps in educational outcomes and student performance among students of color. Next, I want to talk about biases and other barriers that contribute to this issue. The first is personal bias, which is when evaluators subconsciously give higher ratings to teachers that look like them or have similar characteristics to them. Then there's ethnocentrism, which is the tendency of an individual to judge aspects of a different culture as inferior to their own. Next, individuals have a tendency to assume similarity instead of difference when there are two different cultures at play. Then there are stereotypes, which are widely held assumptions about a group or an individual. Finally, we have privilege and anxiety. Minority groups tend to be more aware of their group identity and may experience more anxiety when being evaluated. It's also important to consider intersectionality, which is the fact that when someone belongs to multiple disadvantaged groups, they experience a greater disparity because the discrimination builds between those two groups. Next, I want to talk to you about some actionable steps we can take to change our own evaluation process to minimize the impacts of these biases and barriers. The first thing we should do is define a specific evaluation criteria and rubric that will be used by all evaluators. 3 separate Yale studies have found that this makes it less likely that evaluators will rely on stereotypes and give biased reviews. Then we should train our evaluators. Training should involve multiple aspects, including how to identify one's own biases and adjust, and how to gather objective information from multiple sources for a performance review. When performing our observations, multiple evaluators should be used. Using 2 or more evaluators that have been trained on the rubric and criteria increases accuracy and reliability because multiple perspectives help mitigate both positive and negative biases. For our school system, we could use the school's principal and assistant principal. We could have them evaluate the teachers separately and submit their scores anonymously so that there isn't any confirmation bias between the 2 evaluators. My final recommendation is perhaps my most controversial. I believe that we should record the classroom session on which the teacher is being evaluated with video. This will allow the administrator to have evidence of their review score prior to the review being finalized, and the evaluator can review the video if they have any questions or need to confirm any details. It'll allow for more effective feedback because the evaluator can show the teacher real-life examples of what they are talking about in the review. This will encourage a more open dialogue between the teacher. Finally, we must communicate our changes with our staff in an effective manner. First, we must create and finalize the review rubric. This should be a collaboration between HR, legal, and school operations leadership. Over the summer, training sessions should be scheduled with all principals. In these sessions, we can begin to communicate about the new standards and have conversations about reducing biases. At the beginning of the school year, an email should be sent to all teachers and administrators, and that email should include the new evaluation rubric. In that email, we should also include language that emphasizes that the new standards are meant to provide equity within the teaching evaluation process. Once again, my name is Ray Curley, and I'd be happy to take any questions or comments you have, as well as any suggestions. Thank you for your time.